third internet. This is Chris, and yeah, I wanted to record this earlier, but I wanted to play something that actually had something to do with Silent Hill to kind of cleanse the palate. This was fucked up. That's all there is to it. This was not fun times. Going by the trailers, I knew this wasn't going to be very good, so that wasn't a surprise. I really didn't expect pure ineptitude. I was a defender of the first movie based solely on the fact that it got the aesthetic of Silent Hill down just spot on perfect. I loved it in that aspect. I didn't like the parts of the story that they changed. I didn't know why they did that. But it got the aesthetic and the look of Silent Hill down just spot on perfect. It really looked good. This one had a nice soundtrack that was ripped from the games. Other than that, I don't have a lot of good things to say about it. Where to start on this monster? There's just a lot of problems. This was not a healthy movie. I feel like I should probably be angrier at it than I am. I just kind of feel sorry for it just because of how utterly inept it was and how shoddy it was, really. Everything that an adaptation of a game could do wrong, this one did. I still don't think that it should have been a pure adaptation of the Silent Hill games myself. I still think the way to do a Silent Hill movie is to do kind of like an anthology series, with each movie being its own self-contained story inside of Silent Hill. Create new stories that way. Do adaptations of similar games if you're going to. 2, Homecoming, Downpour, all of those would be ripe for adaptation. But I'd leave the whole Alessa, Cheryl, Heather, Harry thing kind of out of it, because that's a complicated story in and of itself, and the games don't do a particularly good job of explaining it. You really have to piece it all together yourself and kind of riddle it out that way, mainly because the translation of the first game is kind of shoddy in places. But yeah. Wow, I'm gonna be all over the shop floor on this one. Ooh. Okay, let's start with one of the things that kind of irritated me the most about this, and that was how badly they fucked up Vincent. Vincent was nothing like Vincent was in the games. The only thing that kind of was similar to how Vincent is in the games is his name. And I think at one point in the movie, Jon Snow wears a vest. I think that's about the long and the short of it right there. Everything else is pretty much nothing to do with how Vincent is in the game. Silent Hill 3 is probably my favorite of the series. For a lot of reasons. I think the gameplay was the most solid. I like the story a lot. I like the characters a lot. I like the environments a lot. Other than the subway map, don't like the subway map very much. Yuck. But it's probably my favorite. And they really messed up on everything. I know I just keep repeating that, but it's hard to really take in how bad this movie is. This movie is really a piece of shit. One of the things that's the most telling to me is this is opening weekend for the movie, right? Just opened. We went to see a 2D showing because I can't do 3D. My eyes don't do 3D in those glasses. So when I go see a 3D movie, I'm pretty much paying like the 3, 5, whatever bucks extra to wear sunglasses and watch a movie. So there's really no point in me going to see a 3D movie. So we went to go see the 2D showing of it. There was one showing today of that movie at 4:55, and one showing yesterday at 4:55. There were, I think, 4 showings in 3D, which still isn't very much. So that's 5 showings altogether. And I know the movie wasn't screened for critics, which is never a healthy sign. It's getting blasted all across the board by fans, and it's... People who are fans of the series hate it because of how dislike it is to the actual games. In tone, in story, and everything. People who aren't familiar with the games and are just familiar with the movies don't like it because it doesn't tell the story very well. And if you haven't seen the first movie, if you're just coming into this one, you're going to be totally lost. I went to go see it with my friend Penny. She's not real big into the games. I think she's played the first one a little bit, and maybe the second one, and watched her husband play a couple of games. And that's about all she's known of. She's not into the series very much. She watched the first movie when it first came out, which was a few years ago now. So she was pretty lost on this. I understood what was going on. It was like I was telling her afterwards. I understood where the movie was taking me. I just really didn't want to go there. It wasn't taking me anywhere I wanted to go. But yeah, there was one screening today, and there was 11 people, including the 2 of us, in that theater. This one's not going to be around very long. I don't know what to say, what to add to the pot of criticism on this. Jillian in Brad Jones's review says everything I could say about it, so I'm trying to think of other things to say. Go watch that review, and just assume I'm saying everything that Jillian is saying. I just don't have quite as nice of a rack. Not quite. I'm close. Like I said, I didn't see it in 3D. I've heard the 3D is actually okay in places. And you could definitely see where things would be popping out at the screen at you. Like when Douglas gets his fingers cut off and they go flying towards the screen, or when somebody stabs towards the screen, things like that. If you're a fan of that type of 3D, go see it in 3D. You'll probably have a lot more fun than I did. Oh, okay. It just occurred to me. One of my biggest problems with this is, and this is going to be a humongous spoiler. You shouldn't care. Don't go see this movie. But I'm just throwing it out there. This is a big spoiler. Pyramid Head has a big damn heroes moment. Yeah. At the end of the movie, Pyramid Head comes in to save the day. That's not supposed to happen. That's a pretty big fuck up right there. I understand that Pyramid Head is kind of the mascot of the Silent Hill series, for whatever reason, because he's just very memorable, I guess, and he has a very distinct appearance. I don't know. He's the mascot of the series, so they had to have him in there because they're idiots. They are indeed idiots, the people who made these films. But yeah, Pyramid Head comes in and defeats the evil Claudia monster, because Claudia turns into an evil monster at the end of this. Although you've been able to see this same monster earlier, like several times. So I don't know if they're implying that Claudia actually was that monster, or... Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. They introduced a couple new monsters in this one's. You had a lot of the similar stuff. You had the lying figure, the straitjacket, the flesh straitjacket. The nurses, of course, they had to be in there, and that was actually a part of the movie they did all right. Was the nurses? They did okay. The big order goons were back. Was an asylum patient guy who kind of sort of looked like some of the inmates from Downpour a little bit. I don't know if that's what they were going for, but that's kind of what he looked like. But the big new monsters in this one kind of looked okay, other than the spectacular special effects failure. One was the Claudia monster, and she had like blades. She's kind of looked like the female half of Siam from Homecoming, in like the kind of bondagey gear. She had blades on her hands and a couple saw blades stuck in her head because she had a couple saw blades stuck in her head. Whatevs. And that looked all right, I guess, for the most part. The one that didn't was the mannequin monster. And there's this. It's not from any of the games, as far as I know, anyway. I've played all the games that were released here in America, and I don't remember this from any of them. So I don't know, but it would look like a jumble of mannequin parts and like a big spidery thing holding multiple heads. It looked, design-wise, it looked okay. Execution, it looked terrible. We're talking like Sharktopus bad. It not for one moment did it actually look like it was in that room. It looked like somebody had just made it in Blender or something and just dropped it and was dragging it along. It looked pretty bad. But it did have a cool design, and I could see that being cool in a game. But it didn't look good. The crowning achievement for terrible special effects, though. One was Pyramid Head, who looked like he was wearing an inflatable bodysuit like little kids wear on Halloween to be Superman. That's what it looked like he was. And it really looked terrible at times. Another one was in the first movie, the transition effects from light Silent Hill to dark Silent Hill looked really good, and they've adapted that look for the games. You could tell that, or you can really see that in Homecoming and Downpour. That's the translation effect they use, and it looks really good. It's really evocative and cool. In this one, it looks like a cartoon. Wow, it looks bad. When you actually see it. For like the first half of the movie or so, every time Heather goes... Oh, screensaver, turn off. Every time Heather goes into the dark world, it's like she blinks or a light goes out, or she'll turn around and just be in the dark world. And that's kind of how they did it in the original games, in 1 through 3, I think. Not so much in 4, but in 1 through 3, like you'd the one I think of in Silent Hill 3, where you're in the elevator stops, you go into another elevator, and it's in dark world, and the elevator keeps going. That's kind of how they did it in that one, but you've already established that in this continuity, so to speak, that God, I need something to drink. I'm going to be back in 1 sec. I'm not going to edit this. I'm just going to run. Alright, that's it. My voice still sounds terrible. Great. Still getting over this crap. But in this continuity, they've established that that's how you translate through the worlds, is the walls kind of burn up and melt and do that sort of thing with the wireframes. But in this one, the lights go out, and then it's spooky time. And that's, it looks bad. Another thing, and this is kind of a weird complaint to have, but Dahlia Gillespie shows up for one scene in this movie that she doesn't need to be in. But she's there, and it's really distracting because her face is bright orange. She looks like an Oompa Loompa. Or like she's been bronzed or something. It's really weird. It's a bizarre makeup choice, and it just looks terrible. Yeah. What else was there? There's so much to complain about. Where do you start? I had a lot more vitriol built up earlier, but when Penny and me got out from the movie, we went to go get some dinner, and I kind of worked it all out there, which does not for an interesting review make. So yeah, I don't want to say angrier because I wasn't angrier. I just had a lot more to talk about. So what else was there? Well, let's talk about Malcolm McDowell. He was in this movie for about 5 minutes. 5 terrible minutes. Malcolm McDowell did not need to be in this movie. He's better than this. So is Sean Bean, for that matter, and Jon Snow. I can't remember the actor's name. They're much better than this. They do not need to be in this movie. I don't know what they did. Some actors pissed some people off, or needed lunch money or something. I don't know. Then again, I don't think Malcolm McDowell really turned down too many scripts anymore. That's a shame. It's depressing little thought there. But yeah. Oh man, my throat's killing me. What else should Chris talk about in this aspect? I had other stuff planned to talk about, but it's all like floating out of my head now, and it's kind of hard to think about. Everything looked saran wrapped. Penny said that stocks in saran wrap should have gone up after this just because of how much there was. And there was. Everything was really shiny and wrapped up in cellophane, and I don't know why. Like I said, go watch Brad Jones's review of it on the Cinema Snob, and everything Jillian says is what I'm going to say. That's all there is to it. So I'm just going to leave that right there. Resident Evil Revelations is a terrible movie. Do not go watch it. Do not go watch it. So let's talk about something else real quick, Silent Hill related. Because not too long ago, I got Silent Hill Book of Memories. Woo! On my Vita. And I was actually angrier at this game before I watched the movie, because it doesn't have much to do with Silent Hill at all. Silent Hill at all. It's a beat-em-up style game set in Silent Hill. That's kind of weird. You create your own character. That's kind of weird. And there's almost no story. That's kind of weird. But the more I play it, and the gameplay actually is kind of fun in a stupid way. It's kind of fun. It reminds me of the old Hunter games on last gen systems, because they were on all of them. But you team up with a buddy and go punch monsters until they explode. And just like the Hunter games had nothing to do with the Hunter the Reckoning RPG, this doesn't have anything to do with Silent Hill. Still kind of fun. The best way to think of it is like Silent Hill Gaiden. It's a fun side game that doesn't have any bearing on the actual continuity of Silent Hill itself. However you want to think about Silent Hill continuity, it doesn't affect it. It's just its own thing. So yeah. But it's a very odd little game. I've had it on reserve since I got my Vita back in March, because it kept getting pushed back. And then it got pushed forward, and Amazon gave me $1 because it came out early. Yep. it's I don't know what to say about it. It's okay. Like I say, it's kind of a fun game if you can get past the fact that it has shit all to do with Silent Hill. But it's kind of fun. I'm kind of grasping at straws here because I don't want to end this review with being mad at a stupid movie. Is there something I can talk about that will make me happy? No. No. I'm done.